let's turn our attention to Transport Minister Richard Holden MP, who joins us also now from College Green, lovely sunny Westminster. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia. Yeah, it's beautiful here today.
It's so much nicer. I've got a studio with the blind down. I can't see my lovely view out here. Very frustrating. I've got you as my view. And let's talk about what you're talking about as a transport minister this morning. Buses. Now, we spend so much time talking about trains constantly in the media, and actually most people don't get a train to or from work. They don't get a train even once a year. But a heck of a lot of people rely on buses to get to and from work. And you're talking about continuing with this £2 cap on bus fares, aren't you?
Well, yeah, so you're absolutely right. Buses are by far the most used form of public transport, particularly outside the South East. So places like my constituency in North West Durham, buses really, really do matter. And what we're doing is we started at the start of the year with a 3-month programme, the £2 bus fare, basically capping single fare tickets at £2. We've already extended it once, and now we're going to extend it again to the 31st of October this year. This is basically a big cost of living measure, particularly for many people who use the buses. A lot of them will be in lower paid work, some people are students, college students, university students, that sort of thing as well. So we're really trying to help people where we can with cost of living. And then from the 31st of October, we're then going to continue with a £2.50 cap all the way through to November 2024. So it really is a sort of long-term cost of living measure on that side.
Interesting choice of date to continue it to roughly the last possible date, realistically, you could have a general election. How convenient.
Well, I mean,
am I being
things
cynical?
Just a coincidence, Julia.
I'm just being a cynical old tack, aren't I?
Cynical that, Julia. On the other side, I want to say we're also extending support for bus companies and local councils as well, because a lot of those services aren't totally viable as a commercial route, but they are essential social services for people. So we're continuing that support as well for 2 years as well.
I mean, I know a lot of people who live in rural areas in particular. I've actually many suburban areas. If you haven't got a bus, you haven't got a car, and the bus only comes like twice a day, and that is quite normal in many parts of the world. You can't get a job because you can't get there and back. Let's talk about getting people to work there with Sick Note Britain, a record 2.5 million people on the long-term sick. Working age people got back, neck problems, they're overweight, they've got anxiety, they've got mental health, they've got depression, long COVID, you name it. Is a lot of this just not long COVID and not mental health, but actually just long lockdown? And has the government effectively created this problem themselves?
Look, I think we do need to get a lot of people who have been off work or long-term unemployed back into the jobs market. In fact, that's another reason when I was speaking to other ministers why this bus support is so welcome. A lot of people who've been out of work for a long period of time actually don't have private transport, so that's another reason why actually supporting the bus network around the country, giving people that opportunity, and also saying, well, you can actually get to work here or there and at a reasonable cost is also really important. So it's another string to the bow, if you like, as to why supporting bus routes and lower cost bus routes is really important as well, because you're absolutely right. We've got over a million vacancies currently in the economy. I want to see British people in those jobs. We've got people who could be working but aren't in work at the moment, and we're going to keep putting the pressure on to get people back into work. Because
well, we're not putting the pressure. There's no keep putting the pressure on. We're not putting the pressure on. There hasn't been any pressure. That's why you've got a massive increase in the number of people who are now able to claim long-term sick.
Well, I think we're on the same hymn sheet on this one, Julia. I want to see more of British people back in work.
Well, we all want to see, but I hate to tell you, I'm going to break this to you. You're in government. You've got some power to do something about it. I'm just an armchair general on this stuff, wittering away on the TV and the radio. You actually, in your minister boss, you've actually got some power over this. Here's a question. What percentage of civil servants in your transport department are actually working in the office these days in Whitehall?
Well, quite a few, and in fairness to some of them,
know. What percentage? What percentage?
Quite a few, and some of them are with me.
Not quite a few.
Wait a second, Julia.
Give me a number.
Some of them are with me all day today, and also, I've not got a problem with some of them working with me around the country, because I go out around the country every day.
So
just saying that people need to be in the office is totally useless. If I'm out on the street, I need them with me. I've got one of them here with me right now behind the camera.
That's not the same as working from home, Richard. Don't obfuscate. What percentage of people in your Whitehall department are actually working in the office, in Whitehall, available or anywhere around the country in a building with other workers? If you don't know, just say you don't know.
Julia. I just said I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the important thing is that people are in work, right? And one of the most important things we can do to get people into work is ensure they've got transport to get there.
Okay.
That's why
we talked about that.
It's so important. I'm really pushing.
We've talked about that. But you know, as I do, that public sector sick rates are 2 or 3 times what they are in the private sector. Lots of people have been getting in touch with me saying, you know, how many of these people, 2.5 million long-term sick, are private sector employees, and how many of them are self-employed? I think we'll find it be a very low proportion, won't it?
Well, I don't know the full detailed breakdown of those people. What I would say is I think these numbers here are actually around people who aren't in employment. They're not in jobs at all. And I think we all want to see more people back into the workplace. We've got job vacancies right across the country.
Exactly.
Actually, in my own constituency, we've got never had more people in work at the moment. Some really good job stats yesterday as well, showing that we're really nudging on the absolute maximum. But you're absolutely right. Anybody who can work should be in work. And it's not just good for it's not just good for the country, but it's also good for them in terms of health and everything else, and for their families, and for instilling that sense of optimism and opportunity for the next generation.
It's good for your kids, for you to be in work, exactly, showing them, having a routine.
Yeah.
Let me also talk to you about something that's going to be announced by another colleague in government, Michael Gove, the Levelling Up and Housing Secretary, a massive shake-up of renting, the Renters Reform Bill, a ban on no-fault evictions, but also some help for landlords to evict problem antisocial tenants, but they won't be able to so easily just say, I don't want you anymore, you've complained about the mould or in the shower, and so we're going to evict you. A legal right to request having a pet in the home, no blanket bans on, say, benefit claimants coming to rent or people with children. Will these measures, will they get the balance right for landlords and tenants? Because we know we've got bad landlords and we know we've got bad tenants, but we've also got good ones on either side. Is this the right balance?
I think this is a really good move in the right direction, because I think what we want to see, and I get it in my constituency all the time, is you get one problematic tenant on a street causes massive antisocial behaviour problems for everybody else, and and it's an absolute nightmare. So being able to get rid of those people is exactly what we need to do. On the other side, I also get some good tenants coming to me and saying, look, I'm just doing the right thing, paid my rent and being evicted. So I think we need to strike the right balance there, and I think the proposals coming forwards today from Michael Gove and his team actually move a good degree in that direction as well. I rented till I was in my mid-30s. I had some good landlords, some not so good landlords who'd move us around. So I think anything which could provide a bit more stability, especially with some people renting for longer with families, I think that's a really important thing as well for them.
The real solution, of course, is that certainly in your mid-30s you want to start a family, you shouldn't have to need to rent, especially people on decent incomes, two parents working and still unable to get a mortgage. Labour are promising to be the party of house building on the Greenbelt and elsewhere to stop all that NIMBYism that's blocking the planning agreement to building more homes. Should we be voting Labour at the next election if we want to have more homes built?
Well, 2 weeks ago, before the most recent set of elections, Labour were going around saying that they didn't want to do any building on the Greenbelt at all. I mean, this is just the latest of Keir Starmer's flip-flop approach. Every time he sees a new audience or a new issue, he just changes his mind. He changes his mind on open-door borders versus not. He changes his mind on whether he loves Jeremy Corbyn or not. He changes his mind on tuition fees or not. He constantly changes his mind on basically everything for another headline. What I want to see is actually build homes. We've built 2.2 million since 2010, and I'll just give you an example of Labour in office. Let's see what Labour actually have done in office. The highest house building numbers and house starts in London were 2015 and 2016. That was under the last Conservative Mayor of London. That's not what we've seen actually where Labour are in power. So in those latest numbers, house building starts in London are way down on that. I want to see us deliver absolutely right across the country in a proper balanced approach, and I would just take anything that Keir Starmer says with a massive pinch of salt, and I think if you were Jeremy Corbyn or a Labour Party member, you'd probably agree with me as well.
Transport Minister Richard Holden, thank you very much indeed. Very lively there on College Green. Benedict Spence.